Hello, my name is Rima E. Lebo, MD, and I am the Medical Director of the Natural Solutions Foundation. I have been practicing drug-free medicine and psychiatry since the day I graduated from the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in 1970. You see, on my very first day of medical school, my professor of pharmacology told the class that every drug works by poisoning enzyme systems. And he said, there are therapeutic benefits if you like what the drug does. If you don't, you call them side effects. But in reality, there are only side effects. And I thought to myself, since enzymes are the essence, the stuff of life, if you're poisoning enzyme systems, how can you be helping people? So I made a promise to myself that I would never, unless I were in an emergency room or a surgical suite, poison the very engines of life, which is, after all, what enzymes are. And I would commit myself to finding safer, gentler, more effective means of helping people than poisoning them. I did my postgraduate training in child, adult, and adolescent psychiatry just at the time when the flood of drugs began to hit psychiatry. Those drugs made psychiatry a, quote, real, end quote, although fraudulent and massively dangerous medical specialty. Shamefully, doctors who were trained to know far better because they were well trained in the scientific method and they were well trained in analytic thinking and deductive reasoning, those doctors had a profound ego need and powerful financial lures to accept those drugs. They were desperate for recognition by other doctors. Those other doctors spurned and scorned the members of psychiatry. The entire branch of medicine and all its practitioners were dismissed, looked down on. So the illustrious psychiatric professional leaders raced to embrace these new, ineffective, dangerous, unproven drugs that they could then wrap their prescription pads around and be recognized by their fellow doctors as real doctors, and thus biological psychiatry was born. Now, biological psychiatry was a fraud from the day it was born, and it continues to be a fraud today, but it's a dangerous fraud. Let me be very clear. There simply are no safe psychiatric drugs, and there simply is no valid scientific justification for the use of psychiatric drugs in adults or children, except for carefully created and magnificently manipulated willing gullibility on the parts of both the doctors and the patients. Think about it. When the magician comes to town with his nostrums and his colored hankies and his magically appearing and disappearing coins and rabbits, the only reason anyone believes his deceptions is fundamentally because they want to. Every patient who was placed on psychiatric drugs and whose condition deteriorated, allowing the doctor to rationalize the need for more psychiatric medication or different psychiatric medication, was a victim of self-deception on the part of the doctor, who allowed himself or herself to be bullied by peer pressure and to be lulled by personal profit. Think about it. More patients, more prescriptions, more pay, more perks. Every one of those patients was a victim of self-delusion and pharmaceutical delusion. The drugs made people feel terrible, they got worse, and the doctors said, right, that's part of the treatment. You just need more drugs. Every child placed on drugs, those drugs inevitably change and damage the child. Every one of those children is, in my opinion, the victim of a preventable crime. In this case, pharmaceutical child abuse. Every suicide, homicide, workplace, or school massacre in which the murderer was on psychoactive medication was a crime perpetrated not by the weapon wielder. That crime was perpetrated by the person who wielded the prescription pad. They are victims of DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Murder 1 through 7. For shame. For shame, because there are safer, better, more effective methods of helping people who have psychiatric and emotional issues. They include the remarkably effective disciplines of orthomolecular medicine and psychiatry, of environmental medicine, of frequency regulation, of neuroregulation, including, for example, neurobiofeedback, of detoxification, and yes, simple nutrition. They work. They work safely, effectively, precisely, and gently. They work precisely because, unlike pharmaceuticals, they support the body, the mind, and the cohesive unit that together they form that many people call the soul. How do I know? Because I have successfully used these methods to assist people for 44 years, and I have successfully taught other medical practitioners how to do the same. I buy my own coffee cups, my clipboards, my pens, and my vacations. Big Pharma provides nothing for me. Nothing, except patients who are believed to have, and I quote, failed their medications, and who come to me and people like me in order to find health and well-being without toxic chemicals. As the medical director of the largest health freedom organization in the world, the Natural Solutions Foundation, www.drrimatruthreports.com. We offer people information about their bodies, their health, and their choices based on the premise that each of us owns our own body, and each of us has the absolutely inalienable right to full and free-flowing information and to a selection of natural health options and products determined by our wishes, not the government and not corporations, and certainly not the government corporate collaboration that regulation in our country has become. Government and industry conspire to suppress that information. The FDA, the Fraud and Death Administration, burns books and raids legitimate manufacturers to keep you from having information and to keep you from having options for natural health. The results are a society damaged in massive numbers by chemical, mind-altering substances with no real merit and a lot of very happy shareholders, doctors, and executives. I urge all conscientious healthcare providers, especially those who are my psychiatric colleagues, to join me in taking the Health Keeper's Oath, available at www.healthkeepersoath.com. keepersoath.org, pledging never to use our healing skills to oppress or suppress, knowing what we know about psychiatric medication. That means we can't use it ethically. It's your choice. It's your world. It's your way.